This one starts with a missing persons report filed in Santa Barbara on a Sunday in August of 2021 for a father with no criminal record, no documented history of violence, and 2 children under the age of 3. The husband is Matthew Taylor Coleman, 40 years old, owner of a small surf school on the west side of Santa Barbara. The children are Kaleo, 2 years old, and Roxy, 10 months old. 2 days earlier, Coleman had left the family home in a Mercedes Sprinter van and told his wife Abby nothing about where he was going. By the time she went to Santa Barbara police, he had been unreachable for close to a full day. According to people later interviewed by reporters, nobody who knew him saw this coming. No warning signs anyone could point to afterward. No documented mental illness on file. A man who taught local kids to surf, gone, with his son and daughter, and a wife who did not know where. Abby Coleman's next move turns this from a family worry into a federal investigation. She used a phone locator app, the ordinary kind built for exactly this kind of anxiety, expecting to find her husband somewhere close, maybe a friend's house, maybe pulled over on the coast highway. It placed his phone in Rosarito, Mexico, roughly 20 miles south of the San Isidro border crossing. That single data point moves the case out of local hands. Santa Barbara police hand it to the FBI. The FBI loops in Customs and Border Protection at San Isidro, because if Coleman comes back into the country with those children, or without them, that is almost certainly where. One detail separates this from most missing persons reports. There is video. Hotel surveillance from the City Express in Rosarito shows Coleman checking in with both children on Saturday afternoon. 3 people appear on camera. Nothing unusual about the frame. A father and 2 small kids walking into a hotel lobby like 100 other families that same weekend. Monday morning at 2:54, the same camera shows Coleman leaving the hotel again with both children. At 6:33, it shows him walking back through that same lobby alone. Sit with that gap before anything else gets explained. 3 hours and 39 minutes. 2 children go out of frame with their father and do not come back into it. The timestamp is not narrative invention. It comes from the hotel's own security system, dated, the closest thing this case has to a single moment where the story changes without anyone needing to say out loud what happened, because the camera already recorded it. Before rewinding into who Coleman was, hold what those 2 timestamps mean on their own, with no belief system attached yet. A father takes 2 very young children out of a hotel before dawn and returns without them a few hours later. That, by itself, is not evidence of any particular belief. It is a fact a security camera captured in full, and everything that follows in this case exists to explain it. Coleman had run Lovewater Surf School for years, and by most local accounts, he was well-liked and unremarkable, the kind of guy people trusted to put their kids on a board for the first time. Investigators later pieced together, largely from his own phone and his own statements to the FBI, a private slide into QAnon-adjacent material and Illuminati conspiracy content, the kind that circulates online without most people who consume it ever acting on it. Reported text messages referenced hidden elites and secret control. None of it, according to people close to the family, registered as urgent enough to intervene on before it was too late. Abby Coleman has never been charged in connection with this case, and investigators have never presented evidence that she knew what her husband believed or intended to do. That distinction is not incidental. It is one of the few things in this case that is not unresolved. The belief took a specific, narrow shape once it reached his own children. That shape is the subject of this case, not the movement it came from. According to the criminal complaint, Coleman told FBI agents he had been enlightened by these conspiracy theories and was receiving visions that his wife carried something described as serpent DNA passed down to Kaleo and Roxy. He said he believed his own son and daughter were going to grow into monsters, and according to the complaint, he treated that belief as literal, the reported basis for what came next. The tool investigators say he used was a spearfishing gun, built for the ocean, for a sport he had spent most of his life around. Whatever else stays unresolved here, that detail does not. A piece of equipment meant for open water became, according to the complaint, the instrument used at a ranch called Rancho del Descanso, roughly 35 miles south of the border, in a stretch of agricultural land that had nothing to do with any of these people until that Monday. Asked in that same interview whether he understood what he had done was wrong, Coleman is reported to have answered that he did, but that it was the only course of action that would save the world. Read that back once more. He called it salvation for the world, with 2 lives he had helped bring into it as the price the belief demanded. Monday morning, before any of this reaches the border, a farm worker walking the ranch near Rosarito finds the bodies of 2 young children. Mexican authorities respond first. The descriptions match Kaleo and Roxy before anyone has connected that discovery to a father driving north, alone, back toward the United States. For a few hours, this is a discovery in one country and a border crossing in another, and nobody involved yet knows they are the same case. That is the moment a missing persons file becomes a homicide investigation, and it happens without Coleman knowing it has happened. He crosses back toward San Isidro that same day in the Sprinter van by himself. Customs and Border Protection agents, alerted to a man matching his description attempting to cross without the children reported missing less than 48 hours earlier, stop him for questioning before Mexican authorities have formally linked the ranch discovery to his name. Agents read him his rights. In a recorded interview, without agents first presenting him with evidence of the deaths, he confesses. That order matters more than almost any other detail in this case. Nobody confronted him with a body and forced an explanation out of him. According to the reporting on that interview, the explanation came from him, largely unprompted, once questioning began, and it had nothing in it about anger or a marriage falling apart. It was a belief system, spoken plainly to a federal agent at a border checkpoint, hours after 2 of the youngest victims a case like this in this genre ever involves. If this was a crime born out of rage, why did the explanation arrive this calmly and this fast? If this was about a marriage or money, why does neither appear anywhere in the confession? Those are not rhetorical questions built for a script. They are the questions investigators themselves had to answer before they could even write the charging document. A federal grand jury indicted Coleman on September 8, 2021, on 2 counts of foreign first-degree murder of United States nationals, charges that made him eligible for the death penalty. In January of 2023, the U.S. Attorney's Office announced it would not seek death, citing internal process without offering further public reason. No trial follows. Years follow instead, a legal system trying to answer a question that has almost nothing to do with what happened at that ranch, because the physical evidence there was never seriously in dispute. The open question is whether Coleman is capable of standing trial at all. Through late 2022 and into 2023, his mental state reportedly deteriorated in custody, with documented episodes of self-harm and catatonia. In October of 2023, a federal judge ruled him incompetent to stand trial, and a Bureau of Prisons evaluation pointed toward an unspecified schizophrenia spectrum disorder, a conclusion nobody in this case reached quickly or lightly. The case resists the tidy explanation it was given in 2021. QAnon does not fully explain what happened, and neither does the schizophrenia diagnosis that came later. The record holds both: a documented slide into conspiracy content and a later clinical diagnosis of a psychotic disorder. Neither cancels the other, and nothing in the public record forces a choice between them. In the spring of 2025, prosecutors moved to have Coleman forcibly medicated under what is known as a cell hearing, the legal mechanism that allows involuntary antipsychotic treatment in an attempt to restore a defendant's competency to stand trial. Judge Kathy Ann Bensavengo granted the motion. "He is just floundering right now in prison, which isn't helping anybody," she said from the bench. Witnesses are getting cold. The situation is getting cold. Then she answered the appeal she expected before the defense had even filed it. What is the alternative? The defense appealed anyway, and the appeal stayed her order before it could take effect. The Ninth Circuit heard oral arguments in Pasadena on November 19, 2025. As of August 2026, no ruling has been issued. Coleman remains in federal custody, and the case remains where it has stood for years, waiting on a legal question, not an evidentiary one. Whether the man who confessed can be held responsible for what he confessed to. The record supports this much. Kaleo and Roxy Coleman are no longer alive. Their father was the last person seen with them on camera, and the last person seen returning without them. He confessed at a border crossing in a recorded interview before agents showed him any evidence at all. He has never stood trial. Years after his arrest, no court has ruled on whether he understands the case against him well enough to be tried for it. In his own words, according to the complaint, his wife carried something called serpent DNA. His children would grow into monsters. Killing them, though he knew it was wrong, was the only course of action that would save the world. One thing in this case is not in question: what happened at that ranch. The evidence answers that part on its own, without needing a verdict to confirm it. The open question is whether a belief stated with that much clarity to a federal agent at a border crossing counts as a motive the law can weigh, or a symptom the law has to treat before it can weigh anything at all. A court has spent years trying to decide whether Matthew Coleman can understand what he did. The children never got years. They got one night and a belief that reached them before anyone else could.